Friday? My name is 4 Foot Nuttin, and we're going to start off our day talking about the Summer League game reviews. What a Summer League it has been. Intense action as we start off with the first game with the Trailblazers winning versus the Raptors. In this game, the Raptors player Van Vliet did show up and score 31 points. However, the stars of the team really just didn't come out, really just didn't show what they were made of. Jakob Poeltl and Pascal Siakam had really bad games, both of them, considering they're stars of that Raptors team. Poeltl only had 10 points, and meanwhile Siakam only had 2 points during that game. So as you can see, they needed to step up their games, needed to elevate that, especially because this is Summer League basketball, and when they're playing in the NBA, you know they're not going to have as good games as they have in the Summer League. So it hurt. For them, it's really bad to see that they can't put up these good games in the Summer League. The Raptors didn't hit threes either, and this is one of the main reasons this was an upset. You know, the Raptors, the number 1 seed, the Trailblazers were the lowest, the 16th seed. And, the Raptors, they just couldn't hit those threes. They shot 7 for 33, which is about 21%, which is, it's pretty crazy to say that, in Summer League you only shoot 21% from this three-point line. You had 33 chances to score that three-pointer. You only made 7 of those chances. And then you had, on the Trailblazers side, you had 5 10-point scorers, so you can really see how the Trailblazers really stepped up against this Raptors team. The fact that they have 3 really good players on this Trailblazers side, and Caleb Swanigan, Jake Layman, and R.J. Hunter. However, those 3 players weren't even the leading scorers for the Trailblazers. It was actually Nick Johnson, who was 6 for 9, and 3 for 3 from three-point percentage, which makes up the 17 points that he had. So really, you just see the Raptors, they just didn't step up to where they could have been, Van Vliet had an excellent game. However, their stars, Poeltl and Siakam, didn't play well. They shot 7 for 33 in three-point percentage, and overall the Trailblazers just outplayed the Raptors. So next we're going to go into the Pelicans versus the Spurs, where the Pelicans did lose. And going into this game, the Pelicans knew if they were going to come out on top, they needed to shut down Brian Forbes. Brian Forbes is the leading scorer right now in the NBA Summer League. He's averaging 29.3 points in this Summer League competition. And, he had 29 points against the Pelicans, which the Pelicans couldn't handle Forbes. They couldn't get their rotations right, their schemes, and they ended up losing because Forbes almost had a 30-point game. And really, the Spurs, he's been that one player that has stood out, and that is why they keep winning. Not many other players on that Spurs team are really, they're not doing as well as they are as Forbes is. So, and no one really, the problem with the Pelicans this game is no one had that standout game. You have Chuck Diallo, Axel Toupane, James Young, even Isaiah Cousins. And, Chuck Diallo, he had 13 boards and 13 points. That's very good. But, he's had that NBA experience. And to only get those 13 points, I kind of expect that maybe you get 17, 18 points, considering it's Chuck Diallo. But 13 boards, that is very excellent for Chuck Diallo as a center. So next you have Axel Toupane, which underwhelming game, I have to say. He had 10 points. But the problem with Axel Toupane is that he got 0 assists. And it's okay if you're a center to get 0 assists. It's okay if you're a forward to get 0 assists. But the problem with Axel Toupane, he got 10 points, but his 0 assists, he's a guard. So it's really frustrating for, if you're a Pelicans fan to see you have Diallo, you wanted to expect at least 5 more points from him, getting 13 points. And then you Axel Toupane, you expected, 15 points, 2 assists, only getting 10 points, 0 assists. And then you move on to James Young, 5 points, shooting 1 for 4. This player's played for the Celtics in the NBA. He has that experience playing with, guards in this league, playing with Isaiah Thomas. playing with Avery Bradley. So there's no reason why he should be not playing as well as he should have been. Well, he should have been putting up 15 points. He put up 5, shooting 1 for 4. And then you have Isaiah Cousins. Isaiah Cousins, 4 points, 2 for 11 shooting, 18.2 percentage from shooting that 2 for 11. That equals 18.2 percentage. He got 4 points this whole game. And if you get 4 points, 2 for 11, he didn't make a single three-pointer. He didn't make a single free throw. There was nothing really that stood out with Isaiah Cousins. He wasn't driving, trying to get fouls. He wasn't, shooting those threes. He shot 2 for 11 and, mid-range shots. Driving to the basket but not getting that foul call. I mean, players, they don't care if they foul, so you can get many foul calls because of the fact that the 10-foul rule. So you expect better games from all these 4 players, and that's why the Spurs ended up coming out on top. Bryn Forbes, what a game from this talented player. He can definitely step into the Spurs and be that next Danny Green, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, as Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili are getting on that older side. So you're really the Spurs right now, Popovich is trying to bring in Dejounte Murray, try and elevate his game to match that Tony Parker, if not better. And then you also have Bryn Forbes, who, with Manu Ginobili getting older, you have Danny Green, but you need that backup. So maybe put Bryn Forbes in the D-League for 2 years. Once Manu Ginobili retires, bring him up. Play that shooting guard position. If you're a Pelicans fan, the good note is that obviously Frank Jackson hasn't been playing, so considering that, and also Jordan Crawford and Peter Jok did not play, so there's still positives for the Pelicans fans. However, Spurs came out on top. Pelicans, they just need that one player to really stand out, and no one stood out except for Bryn Forbes that game. Bryn Forbes was just the man, stepping up for the Spurs. In every single moment when they needed a shot, he hit it. So next we are going to talk about the Heat beating the Clippers. So the Heat looked incredible, and they've looked incredible this whole summer league. They're one of the most exciting teams. If the Heat game is on, I'm like, yes, I want to watch this. Because of the fact that, they didn't play Bam Adebayo. They didn't play the Heat top pick in the draft. With the 14th pick, they selected Bam. They didn't play him. But they still managed to beat the Clippers with the fact that Okaro White had a monster game, shooting lights out from the three-point line. And the fact is, in the plus or minus, Okaro White, 16. Robinson, 15. And Clavel, 16. You had the 3 players. They really just created those 3 players, pass to this one player, pass to this other player, pass to this other player. And they really created that chemistry in the summer league, which you need if you're going to go far during this tournament. And if Bam comes into this, you can shoot put Bam in the post as like Dwight Howard because they have that same physical tools. They have that same physical tool set. So you add Bam to that 3 players that's really good. Bam in the post, and then he passes it back out, just like the Magic did with Dwight Howard when he played for Orlando. And then we have, we'll talk about the Clippers a little bit. Not really a good game at all for the Clips. The fact that Kyle Wiltshire, one of the players they traded for in that Chris Paul deal, had a very slow game. Only had 7 points, shot 3 for 7. You expect him, being in that NBA stage, he's played a lot of minutes in the NBA, and the fact that he only shot 3 for 7, he should be shooting 6 for 7 in the summer league. He should have ended up with 15 points, including getting some free throws, driving to the basket, showing those other players on the Clippers what the NBA is about, and he didn't do that. And then the player I do like on the Clippers, I did like how he played, is Sindarius Thornwell. He only had 9 points, but he hit 7 for 9 free throws, and it kind of just seemed like he just clicked. It was almost like when you were watching him, this kid's going to be a great backup shooting guard for the Clippers. Obviously, the fact that you have, with the Clippers, you lost J.J. Redick, so you need someone to fill in. Obviously, in the you traded, so now you have players at shooting guard. You have Lou Williams, who's won 6 Man of the Years, I believe, 2 years ago. And then you also have Patrick Beverley, who's more of a point guard. But Sindarius Thornwell, it just seems like he would click with the team. And if you're going to give a contract to anyone on the Clippers, I would have given it to Sindarius Thornwell with how well he played. But what the problem with Sindarius Thornwell is his shooting. As I said, he had 9 points, 7 for 9 free throws, which means the 7 free throws meant that he only scored 1 field goal besides those free throws. The fact that he needs to work on his shooting, he shot 0 for 3 from the 3-point line. So if he could have shot 1 for 3, maybe shows signs of life, then that would be like 12 points, 1 for 3 from 3, and 7 for 9 free throws. That's definitely a good player, and that's definitely someone they should use. But he's very iffy that he didn't, hit that 3-pointer, hit some of those 2-point shots. He was getting those 1-point shots, but it does mean he's driving to the basket, and that is definitely a good thing. But he kind of just clicks with the Clippers, and I really like his game. We move on to Memphis, barely winning versus the Phoenix Suns. It was a high-scoring game. 102-98 was the final score. Jackson, he had a good game considering he was a high draft pick. 13 points. For the, 4th overall pick? 13 points. I think he definitely should have improved on that, have 18 points, that type of thing. But positive from this game, he had 8 boards as a small forward. I think the Suns could definitely look forward to him. You have an up-and-coming player in Tyler Ulis. We have to see what they do with Eric Bledsoe, the fact that, they have a shooting guard in Devin Booker. They have the point guard in Eric Bledsoe. But if Eric Bledsoe gets traded away, do they finally bring Tyler Ulis into the lineup, considering statistically he was the 5th best point guard in the league for the very late stages in the NBA last season? And Derrick Jones Jr., did you see his insane dunk? He came down with it, and, it's just what Derrick Jones Jr. does. It's what he's best at, using his tool set and throwing down those massive dunks, throwing down those insane dunks. It's what Las Vegas really loves in the Summer League is they want excitement. Derrick Jones Jr. is always going to give you excitement when you watch him. And then the one negative of this game for the Suns, obviously they did lose this game, and that's a negative. However, Marquise Chris, he went down with an ankle injury, which is scary considering he really is a backup, maybe even a starter for the Suns. He's an important player, He's going to be in his 2nd year for the Suns, and for him to go down with the ankle injury, not looking good, hopefully he can come back and return from this injury before what they want is before the regular season, but even better would be really before training camps, because from a 2nd-year player, that's when you really need to start excelling your game. Mike James, he had 32 points, but he's one of those players, it was like, I didn't like him even though he scored that 32 points. He doesn't look that good of a player. The fact, he had 32, 5, and 5, but that's, for me, the worst 32, 5, and 5 I've seen this summer. Well, the worst 30-plus point game this summer league, considering he had 6 turnovers. He kind of did too much with the ball, almost like Carmelo Anthony, where he holds the ball too much, doesn't pass it to his teammate, and tries to go for the shot. And it didn't pay off as he got those turnovers in that game. 6 turnovers. That's not what you want in a player in the Summer League, considering if that was the NBA, he may have 10 turnovers. So he really needs to improve on that part of his game, but could be a nice little pickup for the Phoenix Suns. And then we move on to the Grizzlies part of this game. Incredible game for them. Selden had a monstrous 33 points. And he also had 10 for 11 in free throw shooting. But what he really wants to work on, he had those 23 points. But from 23 points if you subtract the 10 free throws that he made. but he needs to work on his three-pointers. The fact that he got 3 for 8 in three-point percentage, which means he did miss five threes in that game. If he can improve on that, maybe make 4 of 8, maybe even make 5 of 8, he's going to be a beast for the Grizzlies in the NBA. As they had a pretty good free agency. Obviously, they lost Vince Carter and Zach Randolph, but they got excellent replacements that can come in and do the job. And if they can get Selden to their team, the Grizzlies are going to be pretty good. The fact that, they have such a young point guard, shooting guard combination, they always seem to bring in those D-League players, those smaller players, and make them good. This season with Harrison, he's came in and been a great point guard when, what's his name was out, Mike Conley when he was out. And then you obviously have Mike Conley, who is a class player. Maybe not for his contract, though. Vincent Hunter, he caught my eye, 6 points, 7 boards with 3 offensive boards. But, he knows Summer League basketball. This is what really stood out to me in his game. The fact that he got 5 fouls in 15 minutes. And I like that in a player because it shows how he can adapt to this Summer League game. It shows that, he knows that in the NBA, you don't get 10 fouls. So if you can really exploit that, then you can be a very good player in the Summer League. And 5 fouls in 15 minutes, that's a foul every 3 minutes, which is bad, but it's very good for the Summer League because of the fact that he only is going to play 15 minutes. So you might as well just commit 8 fouls or whatever. Make sure that they don't get easy layups. And then 7 boards with 3 offensive boards it's really impressive how he can do that, considering in 15 minutes he got those 7 boards. So that's like a board every 2 minutes, just about. And then 6 points, he can improve on that. However, out of all the Grizzlies players besides Selden, Vincent Hunter I like Vincent Hunter's game. And so we move on to the Mavericks. They ended up edging the Kings, and so they're staying unbeaten in the Mavericks' journey to possibly win the whole thing. So they stay unbeaten. Dennis Smith looks incredible. Looks like one of the best players coming out of this draft. Him and De'Aaron Fox look like 2 excellent players, and it was really the battle of them. However, De'Aaron Fox didn't, and as you know, De'Aaron Fox did end up only playing 7 minutes. But Dennis Smith had 25 points, 7 rebounds, which for that quality player is great. 7 rebounds, it shows he has that agility. He has that want to the game. He kind of reminds me of a De'Aaron Fox. They remind me of each other. And they both remind me kind of Russell Westbrook. They can just attack the basket. They remind me also of John Wall. The ability of that speed, turn on the Jets type thing. The one negative Smith had is he had 4 turnovers, which I would like to see him improve on that. Yogi Ferrell, 0 from 10 of shooting. Last year I was like, Yogi Ferrell, how did he not get drafted? I thought he did really good, against Kentucky in March Madness. Insane game. He shot 0 of 5 from 3 and 0 for 10 of shooting. I think Yogi Ferrell is a great player for the Mavericks. When they drafted Dennis Smith, I'm like, oh shoot, Yogi Ferrell's playing time is going down. That's not that good. However, if you're going to shoot 0 from 10 and 0 from 5 for 3, in fact, that's a problem, especially because it's Summer League. He had 0 points this whole game. Didn't even get a free throw. Didn't even attack the basket. But another positive from this game, actually, is Ding. I talked about him last week in my in my 4 Foot Friday podcast. And he looks great. Non-stop motor. He always wants to get that ball. And, it shows that the MVP of the Chinese League coming to America and possibly playing for the Mavericks next season, Ding is definitely a great player. Non-stop, working hard, and I always think that's a great player, even if he doesn't put those 20 points on the board, 20 points up on the statistics, up on the box score. He reminds me of, just kind of like a Yao Ming. Not the fact that I don't think he'll ever be as good as Yao Ming in the NBA. I don't think He doesn't even play the same position at all. Ding plays small forward. Ding plays small forward. Ming plays center. But they just kind of remind me of each other. That player coming from. You don't see Japanese players, you don't see Chinese players, you don't see Korean players coming into the NBA and doing that well. So to see Ding come in the NBA, it's kind of like that next great Asian player to come into the league, and he could be that player. So next I want to talk about Justin Jackson, not Josh Jackson, but Justin Jackson. The fact that when the Kings lost, he did have 25 points. He shot 9 for 19. But the problem with him is he shot 2 for 7 from 3. And it's definitely an iffy game. 25 points, incredible, love it. 9 for 19 shooting, pretty good. That's about .500, which is definitely something. Maybe you could have shot 10 for 19. That would have been a great game. To add 27 points, but 2 for 7 from 3. That's what really stood out to me. The fact that with Lonzo Ball, his first game too. If you shoot 7 threes in a game and you're making 2, or in Lonzo Ball's case, is not making almost any for that matter, you need to stop shooting. You need to realize, I can't hit these threes. Let me stop shooting. Justin Jackson, if you're going to hit 2 for 7, you need to realize after you miss 3, I need to stop shooting. So the big players in this game, they played small minutes. Fox was 7 minutes, and you also had even smaller minutes, in fact, no minutes. You had Buddy Hield, Frank Mason, Harry Giles, and Malachi Richardson. None of them played. So, in total, those 5 players that you really want to excel, De'Aaron Fox, Buddy Hield, Frank Mason, Harry Giles, Malachi Richardson, they only played 7 minutes total, and that 7 minutes was all Fox. So I understand Buddy Hield, Malachi Richardson. I understand why you wouldn't play. You want them to rest. You don't want them getting injured because they are proven NBA players for the Sacramento Kings, especially Buddy Hield. And also Giles makes sense, but want to touch on this point. I said earlier, I said in the last podcast, I think he can be a great player for the Kings. And so I think this makes sense, as if you saw my post on the Sacramento Kings, what they can do in 3 years. I put him in the D-League for 2 years because of the fact that the Kings don't want him getting injured. They don't want him staying injury-prone. Like, he got injured with Duke. He was the number 1 player, and he dropped to 20 because of the fact that he was injured. And so it makes sense to rest him. You don't want to work him too hard where he gets injured again, and maybe that could be a career-ending injury for that would be terrible for him never to play and wasting a number 20 draft pick. And then Mason should have played, I think, especially since Fox played 7 minutes. Frank Mason, you really need to develop him. He's not going to play any minutes. He'll probably play in the D-League since George Hill and De'Aaron Fox will take over that point guard position. But, maybe give him a few seasons in the D-League. Wait till George Hill has to move to shooting guard. And then you can see what happens with Frank Mason at that time. And so, I want to talk about next the Celtics. Easily beating the Warriors. It was never close. And you never say that the Celtics easily beating the Warriors. A team easily beating the Warriors. But since this is Summer League, McCaw was the only player to play well on the Warriors. And he's looking like an incredible bench player for this Warriors team. Jordan Bell played decent for the Warriors, 6 boards in 19 minutes, so decent numbers, but definitely a player that is a project in the NBA. And even with the Celtics easily beating this Warriors team, they didn't play Brown and Tatum, obviously because they are injured. But every player contributed, including 2 great games from Roscoe Allen and Zizic. Roscoe Allen shot 7 for 8, had 18 points in 22 minutes. Incredible numbers there. And then Zizic had 10 boards and 14 points, shooting 8 for 10 on free throw percentage. So obviously, with 10 boards, you can tell right there he's a big man. But then you have the fact that he had 14 points, very good numbers, and he shot 8 for 10 in free throw. Being that big man, shooting 8 for 10 in free throw percentage, it's pretty incredible that this taller player can shoot those free throws, because as we know with players such as Dwight Howard and DeAndre Jordan, they can't shoot free throws as well as other players in this league. So, and then you also have two more known players. I'll tell you how they did, including Demetrius Jackson, who had 9 points and 4 assists, and Semi Ojeleye, who had 9 points, shooting 3 for 9. So they did okay. However, they definitely could have improved their game. And, two great games, and then two more known players having quieter games. And obviously, scary that Brown and Tatum both got injured. The fact that Gordon Hayward and Jay Crowder, maybe they're the only ones playing if Brown and Tatum continue to get these injuries. Next, we're going to talk about the 7-seeded Nets. They do end up beating the 23-seeded Nuggets. And the Nets youth are finally looking decent. That's what I came out of this game thinking. They didn't even play Jared Allen, who I think is going to be an incredible player, an incredible pairing with D'Angelo Russell and Jeremy Lin. You have Archie Goodwin, who stands out a lot to me. He had the second best plus or minus on the team, and he's just played well, played very consistent numbers throughout this whole tournament of the Summer League. And then you also have Isaiah Whitehead, 14 points, 4 assists, 3 rebounds, incredible point guard to back up either D'Angelo Russell or Jeremy Lin, depending if you move D'Angelo Russell or Jeremy Lin to shooting guard next season. Next season could be incredible for the Brooklyn Nets. Do you play DeMar Carroll at power forward? If you play DeMar Carroll at power forward, you're going to end up having a lineup of this. Point guard, D'Angelo Russell. Shooting guard, Jeremy Lin. Small forward, Rondae Hollis-Jefferson. Power forward, DeMar Carroll. And center, Jared Allen. That's incredible considering where they were last season. D'Angelo Russell deloading can really carry this team and load this team up in free agency. Players finally might want to come. Load this team up with the free agents. It finally looks somewhat appealing, these Nets. And I don't think they'll end up last. And if they do, will they get, I don't think they will because of the fact that they don't have the draft pick next season, so they really want to improve. They don't care if they lose. They don't care if they win. They don't want to lose. They want to keep winning because they don't care about the pick. They don't care about where that pick lands. If anything, they want the Celtics to be worse and maybe have them end up getting the 15th pick if the Nets somehow make the playoffs, which they won't. However, I see them getting a 12th, 11th, 10th seed, which is definitely an improvement from last year. In terms of the Nuggets, Malik Beasley, 20 points, 4 of 6 from 3, and 7 rebounds. Great numbers from him. Incredible 20 points. 4 for 6 from 3 is pretty decent considering I've talked about other players and I've said how bad they are at three-point shooting. 4 for 6 is great from 3 for Malik Beasley. And 7 rebounds does show that he's agile, does show his athletic ability. And then you have Tyler Lydon, who had no points, bad defense, minus 15 plus or minus. He didn't do that good in these 12 minutes he played. A minus 15 plus or minus in 12 minutes, it was one of the reasons why these Nuggets couldn't win. You really want a player like Tyler Lydon stepping up in the Summer League, but with no points, bad defense, bad everything, you're not going to really see him. You're not going to really see your team win if these players can't step up. And we've seen that with other teams. The main players not stepping up, they lose the game. Excuse me. Next, we have the Lakers, and this will be the final talking point. The Lakers do end up edging the Cleveland Cavaliers. Ball had his second triple-double, and that's crazy considering the fact that he didn't have any triple-doubles in college basketball when he was playing for UCLA. He had 16 points, 10 boards, and 12 assists. However, this is where I'm not convinced. 6 for 20 shooting. That shooting really needs work. He started slowly during the Summer League. He's really improved on that. But 6 for 20 shooting, I understand he got 16 points. But you can't just look at those numbers. You have to look, really, what his shooting percentage is. You have to look at other numbers, steals, blocks, all that. 6 for 20 shooting, that's what stood out to me from this game. And if you saw a number 6 for 20 shooting, that's not the best game. It's 12 points. But yeah, could have got 40 points if you made all those shots. right? And the other thing with Lonzo Ball, wear those BBB shoes. Wear those big baller brands. And the fact that he's wearing Nike, he's wearing Adidas. Wear this big baller brand. That's what the Ball's created, and he should be wearing the BBB shoes. And then on the Cavs side, though, Kay Felder looking great, 25 points, hustled for the ball, really just maintain the ball, help the offense, help the young players grow. And as I said before, great ability to hustle for that ball. Speaking of ball, Lonzo Ball, terrible defense. I understand it's Kay Felder. I understand he's been in the league for a year. I understand he's learning under Kyrie Irving. To let him get 25 points, considering you're the number 2 draft pick, that's unacceptable. If you're Lonzo Ball, you need to shut him down. And bad defense from Lonzo Ball that game, however. Lonzo Ball, he's been playing well, I have to admit that. Triple-double, considering he had none in college, that's a big step up. And overall, this actually was a very entertaining game, the Lakers and the Cleveland Cavaliers. But anyway, that should end up doing it for this episode of, Four Foot Friday. Thank you for listening, and I will see you next time.